right. Um, so thank you everyone for coming to this Northwest CUHO webinar. My name is Megan Lockwood. I am the Northwest CUHO Communications Director. And in my day job, I'm an executive assistant and project manager at Oregon State University. Today, we will be hearing from Hannah Hall, a student accounts coordinator at the University of Washington. Hannah presented this program at the 2025 annual conference and has graciously agreed to present it again today. Thank you so much, Hannah. And so I'm going to let Hannah introduce themselves a little more as well as their presentation. So Hannah, take it away.
Wonderful. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. Hopefully some of you have some sunnier summer weather than we do in Seattle right now. But we do love, an overcast gray day, sprinkled into our season change. As Megan said, my name is Hannah Hall. I am the Student Accounts Coordinator with Housing and Food Services at the University of Washington Seattle campus. My primary role as the student accounts coordinator is really monitoring all aspects of accounting for residents that are active. So I'm the one who will place charges, recoup those payments, sets payment deadlines, and monitors and coordinates a couple different programs for repayment schedules that might need to adapt to a student situation. And so we can just get started. But I do wanted to say, if there are questions that people have, happy to have them at the end. There should be time for that. But if there's really anything urgent or you do have a question, Megan, you'll be monitoring the chat and will let me know if we need to pause or answer any questions. Thank you again all for being here. I assume that many of you are here because you have a similar interest in financial literacy and reviewing varied student situations for your residents. Or maybe you're just interested in practicing empathy to improve your interactions with students or others. Either way, I'm really glad everyone is here. And my presentation is called The Life of a Balance. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, so for the abstract, we have higher education professionals play a critical role in increasing financial literacy from the first charge to the final payment. In this session, we will explore a few examples of on-campus residents as they progress through their occupancy from a billing and accounting perspective. We will also focus on strategies for increasing financial literacy, sharing financial information, and working empathetically with an often taboo topic. All right, so our learning objectives for today are that participants will view the life cycle of student billing from their initial charges to either a completed payment expectation or the transition to bad debt. Participants will also learn how to improve student access to financial information and financial literacy. Participants will also learn how to demonstrate empathy while learning and addressing strategies to tackle the needs of the current and future generations of students. All right, we're going to move into our first case study. I've obviously changed the names of all of these students for privacy, and you'll probably see a similar theme with how all of them are named. All of the student account overviews that we will look at today are students that I have worked personally with in a minor or major way. So case number one, we have Alvin. By the time that Alvin had completed living on campus, they were a third-year student, so they lived with us for at least 3 years. The University of Washington Seattle does not have a requirement that any student with any age or academic standing live on campus, so it's totally voluntary that they live with us for the length of time that they want. This student lived in our 2 different agreement types. We have 9-month housing, which goes from September to June, and then our 12-month housing, which runs from September to August. I believe they were in 9-month housing for their first 2 years, and then their third year they were in 12-month housing. The total costs that they amassed over that time was $46,126. So just a little under $47,000 for those 3 years. This student had never been late. They made every payment on or before its due date or within its grace period, um, which is really great. They had also only ever requested to extend their due date one time, meaning the student anticipated not meeting one of their agreed upon due dates and needed to extend out when they would make that payment to avoid being delinquent. Um, by taking advantage of the no questions asked 2 week extension that we offer for payment due dates, this student was able to meet their payment expectations for the quarter that they requested it. This is actually a very common student situation for residents at UW Seattle. They tell us that this tells us that they have read their communications, um, that they understand what is expected of them, and they use the tools provided to make their payments on time. The other students in this scenario may ask basic questions or follow up to the communications that we send. Maybe they're looping in their parents or guardians, but ultimately they pay on time. And what is even more likely, uh, most students we don't even hear from. They just pay on time. And so most students really fall into this case, case number one. All right, we're going to move on to case number two if there aren't any questions. All right, case number two is Simon. Simon was only in housing for their first year before transferring to another university. So they were only ever a first year at UW. They lived with us in 9-month housing for the traditional 3/4 of an academic year. And then they lived with us for the summer between after the 9-month agreement was done. In that time, their charges ended up being a little bit over $34,000. This student was late a total of 4 times, meaning they had an extension every quarter of their agreement. It is also, excuse me, I apologize, just getting a little bit over a cold. Um, it's likely the student requested to extend their due date after we began the process of identifying students who were unable to meet the 5-day grace period for every due date. It would also mean that they were late making the payments that they had extended. Um, so this is why the total number of late payments and the total number of extensions is the same. So we do this kind of in a tiered system where every due date has a 5-day grace period. And if they need 2 weeks from the original due date, they can ask that, but you can pretty much ask for that extension with any time within those 2 weeks, but the 2 weeks are static. So you don't get 2 weeks from when you ask to extend it. It just has a very specific start and end date. This student was also set up with a payment plan 3 times. Um, and this is excuse me, which could also contribute to delinquency as they may have been late on the then approved payment plan due dates. Um, in the last year, I shifted to how I offer payment plans as a way to tackle delinquent payments. I used to only offer 3 and 6 month payment plans, but I added a soft 30-day extension within that period since most students in 9-month housing specifically were waiting for checks to be processed, which is the slowest form of payments that we accept just because they have to go through the mail. For this student, because we established 3 30-day payment plans, which is likely contributing to the total number of late payments they had, the student also met with me in person 2 times. In those meetings, I'm always working to get at the crux of the issue. What is really happening at a foundational level behind why they're missing their payments? It's a time for me to ask myself where they and I are having a miscommunication, or if there's a gap in the student's financial knowledge. And it's really just that simple. Usually it's those two in combo where they may not understand what is expected of them, and it is helpful to have someone who is keeping them accountable. Okay, we're going to move on to case number 3. Let me just double check something, if that's okay, everyone. Okay. Okay, case number three. Case number three is Theodore. Theodore also only lived on campus their first year before transitioning to another university, and they were only in a 9-month housing agreement. Their costs were just under $12,000. In case you're curious about why this student's yearly charge was much less than the others, is because they lived in one of our legacy buildings, which due to its relative age as a building, is a more cost-effective rate each quarter. This student was late a total of 6 times, requested a payment extension 1 time, and one payment plan was established. The 6 late payments are likely due to a combination of being late on a quarterly basis, delinquent on a extended due date, and late within the parameters of their payment plan. However, it's pretty safe to say that they only submitted an extension uh, once, and they were likely delinquent at every stage throughout the non-payment process that I manage. This student and I actually also met regularly, more than once a quarter, to go over why they were failing to meet deadlines they'd previously agreed to. It took them a while to open up to the full extent of their financial situation with me, but in the second quarter, I was able to work with them regarding uh, how earned money was to be used in their family unit. Um, so this student was local, meaning that their family was within about a 20-mile radius from campus. Um, let's see. Though the student had a desire for the paycheck that they were earning and for their aid to be used for exclusively for their school expenses, um, they also had a strong desire to continue supporting their family back home financially. So there was just a little bit of um, a struggle there on how to best practice the use of their aid, the use of their paycheck, and their familial obligations as well. And we actually run into that a lot, where students are trying to maintain their own housing, be a registered student, while also trying to send any money home that they can. Unfortunately, even though this student was set up with additional financial support outside of the programs that I manage, they were ultimately sent to collections. Because a payment is a black and white metric for understanding the scope of participation in their action plan, it's difficult to say what decisions ultimately led them to opting out of their outstanding debt to housing before moving out and being sent to collections a year later. I could see in the meetings that they were struggling to reconcile the expectations of themselves to make payments in their best interest, um, versus the desire to help their family. But it's impossible to say what led them to these decisions. Despite forming a relationship with the student, they just kind of left at the end of the agreement and we didn't hear from them. Okay. Are there any questions about the cases that we've looked at? Okay. Cool. All right. If no, I am going to move on to the next section. Um, we are going to be moving on to kind of the metrics of extensions and payment plan statistics. These are the two programs that I coordinate in my role as the student accounts coordinator. And what you see in front of you is actually the quarterly participation in descending order, going back quarter by quarter for about a year and a half. When I presented this earlier in February, we did not have winter quarter 2025 or spring quarter 2025 metrics. I do not have that information regarding extensions now, but I was able to update information regarding payment plans, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So the colored bars are specifically the total number of extensions submitted on a quarterly basis, the number of people who met their extended deadlines, and what percentage match that statistic. As you can see, there's a bit of an inconsistency between each quarter and the total number of people who were approved for their extensions and the number of people who ultimately met their extended payment deadline. While we do have some outliers, we do average between 200 and 300 submissions per quarter, and with an average completion rate around 60%. However, over time, we actually see that it increases to about 80% of students overall over the course of multiple quarters, that meeting the payment due date extension new due date is about 80%. There isn't really one specific pattern that we can glean from these numbers, but the data is really helpful in reviewing the efficacy of this program. If we take a look specifically at winter quarter 2023, this one is a bit of an outlier quarter because, excuse me, I am very confused about what I wrote in my notes. With winter quarter 2023, it does show, I am so sorry. Gotcha. Usually in winter quarter, we do have less people who submit extensions versus autumn and spring, because in autumn, everybody's pretty new. They're just kind of getting their bearing, trying to make sure they understand all that is expected of them. And so we usually see a decrease as the year goes on, but in winter 2023, we can see that we got a lot of submissions and not that many people actually met their deadline. Oh, opposite of that. I'm so sorry. The opposite. I'm confusing myself by which lines I'm looking at. For winter 2023 is an outlier because we actually had a significant number of people who met it. But if we then look at spring, the following quarter after that, that number goes way, way, way down in comparison. So it's really difficult to say what leads to such success with people meeting their deadlines from one quarter to another quarter, um, which can be, it's helpful, but it's also like this doesn't really make any sense. My guesses on why there's such a stark difference between the quarters is because we updated our billing notice to lead students to review their ledger um, ahead of time instead of us providing them with the number that they owed. Because one of the things that can happen is if students aren't going to the source of their all of their payments, they're not actually learning to use the resource available to them. A student statement of account is a living document and is always going to have adjustments, changes, credits, refunds, anything that is happening on that account. And so we tell students that the place that they have to look now to review their balance is exclusively in the statement of account, rather than just giving them a number that they owe. We also began changing our language around 529 payments and others college saving accounts, because a lot of the time students were delinquent with their check payments specifically from their 529 providers. And so we spent a lot of time kind of retraining students on the options for how to use their 529 or college savings accounts. Most of the time, those accounts do have the ability to do account transfers rather than writing a check, so they could be paying us immediately. And so we've just increased our language around best practices and payments for folks paying with their 529 that can be issued directly to Housing and Food Services. And we changed this because check payments just take a while. I don't know if this is a concern or issue at other universities, but we have just kind of steered away as much as we can from telling students that one of the main methods they can pay is by check. And we've just totally wiped that language from our website and other communications for billing notices as a viable payment option, just because it takes way too long. And we end up with a lot of delinquent payments, and it just kind of made sense to change it. Okay, so another program that I manage is payment plans, and these are managed on an individual basis year by year instead of per quarter. And what you can see on the screen is data from the last 3 years. We just finished 24-25, and you can see how many people submitted a payment plan each year, and when I submitted also means approved. So these are the number of people that were approved for payment plans, which could be anywhere from I need 2 more weeks to pay, 30 days to pay, 3 months, and all the way up to 6 months to make their payments. Um, Most people do end up meeting their payment plans. And one of the things that this doesn't show is um, on a per quarter basis, well, per a you've reached the end of your payment plan, the final installment. Um, how many people just end up having a payment plan and then they don't pay and then they move out at the end of the year, and we're just left with the same amount delinquent, and then we never really hear from them again. And so those are often the students that end up being sent to collection as time goes on. They are students that had an extension, approved for a payment plan, and then just as it was kind of close to the end of the year, never actually met the expectations there, um, which can be challenging, to go through all of this auditing and reviewing and meeting with students to ensure that uh, this best supports their needs, and then just they don't uh, meet what is expected of them. Um, Most students do ultimately meet the expectations of their payment plans. They're able to pay by the time that that plan concludes. For example, students who do request and are approved for 6 month plans, it's possible that they could still be delinquent a few times during the months of that plan because they're managing quarterly and monthly due dates as it is spread out over the course of their time in housing. Um, but usually by the end, they have caught up. One of the difference between academic years listed and the one that we just finished is that I've really begun stressing to students that a payment plan is only one part of their action plan and to treat it as a last resort. In meetings with students, we're already helping them connect with their financial aid officer and other on-campus resources that a payment plan uh, could be used in tandem with. Not very often. Students are met with the same flexibility and people who are um, able to actually provide this flexibility as they're continuing their studies. So I really do enjoy that this is the way that we do our payment plans, though. Um, Part of being approved for a payment plan is they also must agree to the outline of their dates. So they don't get a choice in how their payment is broken down, how much they pay each month. It's just determined by what is delinquent, and typically it's starting in the first of the following month. And then another thing is that they only get one payment plan per agreement period, unless due to significant financial hardship that they demonstrate with documentation, would we sort of reassess the current payment plan that they're on and potentially adjust it somehow. Okay, so we're going to go into a bit of accounts overview. So I have a few takeaways that I want to provide based on the case study and the statistics from the previous slide. So 90 to 95% of students fall into the same bucket as case number one. Most of the time, we do not hear from them outside of basic questions. They can call, email, they make their payments on time, and we don't really hear anything from them. And we bill for each quarter about 4 to 5 weeks in advance of the quarterly due date in order to align with tuition payments and aid disbursements as well. This gives students plenty of time to review their billing notice with the pairs in their life, their financial aid officer, their scholarship provider, and potentially a 529 account. As outlined, most students, should they contact our office at all regarding billing, are really just asking follow-up questions like, I'm a first year and I have no idea what ACH stands for, or how do I make a payment via web check? Or anything else that's really very surface level, because they are likely in the midst of making a payment for the first time. I just want to learn from that interaction. In the second box, we can see that the remaining 5 to 10% of students do regularly miss the quarterly due date. By the end of the 5-day grace period we have for each due date, ultimately, the students will have made their payment by that time. Since I schedule billing notices and am the one that ensures that all students get one, students are usually sent about 4 total notices and reminders before the payment is actually late. And the payments won't really be considered late until about 10 days after the original due date. These reminders are really just outlining, hey, your payment is due. And this goes to 100% of residents, regardless of if they have a balance, because we are really trying to shift students into using everything that their housing account has to offer, um, so they can understand what their ledger looks like. And it really just mirrors a bank statement. And so we're kind of doing a little bit of life lessons there. Um, we're really just trying to remind students to review their resources and determine for themselves if their account is actually in good standing. Even if in the following days I advise them that their account is in fact not in good standing. For example, the for winter quarter 2025, we had about over 9,000 people in housing for that particular quarter. And by the end of the 5-day grace period for that quarterly due date, I sent about 1,000 reminders to folks with a balance that the 5-day grace period had ended. Um, this was a third notice that students had received regarding their account since December 27th of 2024. This was also a list of students that did not include those had already requested to extend their due dates. But by the time that we tell someone that the end of the 5-day grace period is done, we can expect to receive about 80 to 100 more extension requests in about the 24 hours after that communication is sent out. In the bottom left box, for students who are similar to case number 3, we're really only looking at about 1% or less of students that are in that same bucket, and an even smaller percentage of that end up being sent to collections. Our collections process was reestablished in the last few years after HFS stabilized due to COVID, and it was really only started being fleshed out in summer 2024. The process is to connect students who are no longer part of the UW system and have an outstanding balance that we were not ultimately able to recoup successfully through traditional and active means. In the bottom middle, the takeaway is that payment plans and extensions really do work. Though the statistics may not show it, um, I wouldn't stop offering these programs to students, because what we can do over time is continue to evaluate the efficacy, communication methods, and increase financial literacy to ensure students are able to uphold their agreements with us. And then the final takeaway is that there's really no pattern from year to year on who may take advantage of these tools. As time goes on, we may be able to see a pattern or know more matter of factly of what causes students to be delinquent. I'm dealing with that right now. We just finished the end of our spring quarter about a week ago, week and a half. And of students that had requested payment plans in our 9-month housing sometime during late spring quarter, basically none of them actually met that expectation. And so it kind of skews the metrics on uh, my thoughts on the efficacy and of offering payment plans so late in the year, um, and how students just kind of can leave and have a balance at the end of their time with us. Okay. Okay, next we're going to go into practicing effective communication and displaying empathy. And I have 4 main points for this, which are methodology, style, frequency, and availability. Okay, so methodology is really just about looking at your methods that you would use or that are available to you, evaluating if these methods are beneficial to you and your team. Methodology is also about improving how students understand their balances and anything else that you're trying to tell them. Is it truly efficient and clear? Style is critical. One of the things that we've done with style is updating our communications our emailed communications by changing the color and fonts in our reminders that they can be easily read by those with color blindness, who are using a screen reader, are dyslexic, or we may be putting our emails through a translation service. Um, some of you know Crystal. We're very lucky to have her on our team, and she really is an asset for making sure that our communications are concise, up to date, and accessible to all students and their peers. Um, frequency is next, and frequency is critical. To me, this is almost the most important part of effective communication because at some point something has to get through to the student. Their attention has to be grasped. I'm regularly playing around with how often I send communications, what the subject should be, but what I get the most results from is just reminders, reminders, reminders. Um, because eventually they do read something. And the final part of effective communication, I believe, is availability. And that's really it. Availability is your personal availability within the scope of your position. In my specific role, I'm able to invite students to set up meetings with me. If they have nuanced finance questions, I've personally made myself available for them to do just that. Sometimes students do have a hard time with their financial aid officer, not because of a lack of understanding, but because they're working with a higher financial knowledge than myself even. Our office is also open 5 days a week, with walk-ins welcome the full time that we are open. They can come right in as we're open, and many do, and come with questions, of all kinds. And my availability is really to the benefit of the students. Okay, and then this is the communication roadmap. So this is kind of the order in which we will begin communicating with students about the urgency or state of their account. Um, one of the primary methods, and these four are the primary methods that are available to me, and I'm sure they would be similar for other folks in this position as well. I'm positive everyone is using email. It's okay if not, but email is our primary communication that we use, and it is the primary way to share out all information. The main form of communication for us, and these communicate for us in Housing and Food Services, these communications really tell them everything that they would need to know. And as a result, we can track the release of information to when it went out, to whom it went out, who responded back, and if there was a pattern to the type of responses that we get. And we can use this and this can include bounce back emails, or if there's any issue, with the folks the student has given permission to receive emails on their behalf, because we know that they will receive it. And one of the end results for email communication is that we have a documented release of all that information. With in-person meetings, they are structured, personal, and a direct form of communication. Like I said earlier, we're open 5 days a week as well, and students can just come in and talk to any of our staff regarding the scope of our work. We're also available to triage issues for students as they arrive. Often because it is their finances, issues with their roommates, or concerns about the agreement they're in. We're all trained to answer these types of communications, address them when students come and walk into our office. We use this method to assist students in being directed to the correct department for the concern that they are having, so they don't feel like that they get bounced from place to place to place, which from a customer service standpoint, I'm sure is part of many departments' practices as well. And one of the great things about being in person is that you can set up an agenda. So you know what you're going to talk about, and you get to begin forming a relationship with someone who may be struggling, who may not have any support from home or any other type of relationship that they're developing while they're in a university. And it allows you to be kind of a solid, trustworthy adult that they can come to with questions. You can also practice being direct, and this doesn't mean being rude or unempathetic, but it's just being factual about a situation. This way, you can really meet students where they are. We often compare first-year students to infants or toddlers who are just stepping away from their guardian's hand, or maybe they made it to your institution on their own, and they just need to establish a support system. It's only in our best interest to understand and meet students where they are, regards to their relationships with money as well, um, s- uh, because it's more than likely someone else's money. Um, and they just kind of need to know how everything works. And we need to keep the wheels turning for them. We also, as I'm sure many people have in their offices phone calls. This is a quick and private method. And phone calls are probably the easiest form of communication. I'm sure all of you are familiar with talking to students, guardians, and the community regarding your policy and student accounts. Um, yes, they can be used to establish a connection, but they are quick. They're really just a quick and easy way to release information for someone to confirm their understanding of a situation. Um, and people can really just ask their questions and be on their way. They are going to be just a little bit less personal because of that, because phone calls are generally just, hey, I have a question. Great, here's the answer. And then they're on their way. And then the last form is written communication. This is a way to reinforce and summarize information sharing. So we will send students written communication, put it in their mailbox as just kind of a last effort to get something out to them. It's usually only done if emails, invitations for in-person meetings, and phone calls have not been a sufficient form of communication. Either we can't get a hold of them, or we just don't know where they are. And so with written communication, we utilize our campus partners in residence life to deliver letters to student mailboxes or to them personally at the rooms, just to see if maybe somebody moved out and didn't tell anybody, and we just kind of need to track down where they are. And a written communication is another way that we are able to do that. It is also an additional form of documentation for the release of specific information. Okay, so this is the continuation of the communication roadmap. And we're going to go through these 6 columns as well. So we're going to follow these steps to practice empathy in the communication methods that we use. However, most of this is generally geared towards in-person meetings. So with conceptualize, we have remember to have a professional and courteous tone. Make sure that you are using mindful and inclusive language. What can you glean from the student? Is there any particular language that they are using that you could mirror? Can you even decipher their headspace based on the language they're using to describe their situation? In this, you can also practice active listening and acknowledgement to the toughness of their situation. You may have encountered their situation many times before, but they never have. This may be the lowest that a student has been, and we want to make sure that we are fully acknowledging the weight of their situation for the students, ensuring that they know that it's possible to get out of it. Um, we're also going to focus on emphasize and guide them. It's critical that we be in their corner and be known as a trustworthy adult in their life, as they are without their usual supports. And may be at the university shedding their previous support groups as well. Acting in a support role in an educational setting is going to help carry them. And we may not be teachers, but we have the opportunity to be educators and help students learn. Um, and then putting these into practice, one of the best things to do is monitor and adjust your body language. I myself tend to have my arms crossed because it's the most comfortable way for me to stand and sit when I'm working one-on-one with someone. But I know that on the outside, a lot of people interpret that as being a bit standoffish. When I'm with students, I try to make sure that I'm a bit more expressive with my body instead of just crossing my arms. I also have a bit of a louder voice in general, so I really have to make sure that I'm monitoring my tone and make sure that my enunciation isn't stark, dramatic, or inappropriate for the conversation that I'm having with a student. This is a particular challenge for me due to my hearing and verbal processing issues that have led me to having a louder voice in general. It can be difficult for me to speak softly without significant effort just because I don't find it natural, but it is something to practice. And another part of practice is just being mindful and aware of the physical space that you're in. Um, and how the student is as well. Mirroring language is a really good way to help. Like if you're mirroring how students refer to other folks in their lives, if they're using or misinterpreting certain words, it is okay to correct them if you feel that it would not cause any escalation. Um, just be aware of the state that the student is in without, excuse me, while holding the conversation. If you're in an open office, like I am, you may need to have the conversation elsewhere or use a different communication method if there isn't a way to keep it private enough, depending on the needs of the student, the state of the student, the resting volume of the office, and the closeness of your neighbors. Should you be at your desk, make sure that your space is inviting, comforting, and private. It will be important to let the students know the parameters of the space they're stepping into. Should they not like the space limitations? Oftentimes, I will ask the students if they want to have the conversation elsewhere or at a different time due to their privacy concerns. And then the results of both conceptualize and practice and the things that I've outlined there is there's a couple of different takeaways that will lead to a resolution. I believe that the way that we work with students ultimately leads to a greater understanding of policy and relief of their fear of the unknown. Many of you won't be able to help them with everything in their personal lives, um, but you would be able to guide them through those issues that they're having at a university level. With that, you will begin to build a rapport and develop a personal relationship with students. When it comes to finances specifically, you will potentially become involved in their personal lives because money is a universal denominator that affects everyone. These actions will allow you to provide personalized care. And I think a lot of this just really boils down to that. With personalized care, you can tailor programs of payment extension and payment plans to fit their needs. The specific parameters of those might not actually address the root concern of their financial situation and delinquency, but it will hopefully be able to provide a space where the students can open up enough to provide them personalized care and attention. And hopefully at the end of your encounter, the student will walk away feeling like they are able to receive and accept a personalized action plan that you have laid out. This may be the first time that students are experiencing budgeting, spending, and savings. And a lot of students are experiencing applying for financial aid programs for the first time. FAFSA is very different now than it was when I was applying to universities due to changes in parental and familial payment expectations and what parameters define hardship. Tuition, housing, and dining charges are likely the first time that students are experiencing balances and just numbers so large. Um, and then part of the send off is when the communication ends. So if you are literally sending the students off, if you're having an in-person meeting, they're literally walking away from where you're having that meeting. And hopefully they feel like they've established a good relationship with you and they have a solid place for extra support. This can result in a reduction in personal or perceived bias as you increase your empathy and situational awareness. In theory, after concluding your meetings and setting up a plan with follow up communications to summarize what you discussed in the meeting, the student will have completed the task and expectations that you put forth from them. So that's the best case scenario and what we would hope would happen every time. With study, what can you take away from your own personal study of the interaction you just had. You have the opportunity to monitor how you were present and how you were received. Um, this is the time to review your body language, review if you understood the emotional state of the student, and respond appropriately. And if you provided the right tools for their situation. Money is normally very taboo, um, and discussing it in such a frank way is often totally new to the students. Um, and as I allude to in the abstract. At the university level, we are having encounters with a significantly diverse group of people that have a wide and varied lived experiences. These may be their life experiences may be things you've encountered before or maybe not. I'm lucky to be able to bring my experience in my personal life that brought me to financial knowledge and literacy, simply knowing that many people did not grow up in households that had discussions of money and income, and how choices like excursions or even new clothes had an impact on spending and savings. I'm always trying to pass along what I learned in a casual and comfortable way, since that was a privilege I was granted when I was younger. One of the other ways to study is to use numerical benchmarks. In my position, I'm reviewing incoming payments in different formats every day through the use of accounting software and merchant portals. I'm also reviewing the completion of payment plans uh, and other things that would need approvals. These metrics allow me to review if students are utilizing the tools available to them and if they're staying up to date, avoiding delinquency for a second, third, or potentially even fourth time within these parameters. Because I'm mostly reviewing payments, my metrics are payments made, yes or no, and how often they're made. So it's pretty black and white on which metrics that I'm using, since we can track everything pretty much in real time. And so it's if you have accounting software that helps you do that, um, I recommend setting up a way to review your metrics and what metrics are important. And then with investigate, um, you can pursue your own investigation about your own work and the metrics by asking a couple of the following questions. How did this interaction go? Did I go how I thought it would? And maybe the answer is it didn't, but you can use the objectives outlined in the roadmap to continue improving uh, this skill. Sometimes, though, there are just situations where I'm totally unprepared for a student situation despite my experience in the environment for a while. There really is so much diversity in the lived experiences that you can't possibly be prepared for everything. It's impossible to know how someone would react to a situation and the options available to them. The other question you can ask yourself are the action plans available to the student sufficient for their situation? A lot of the time, someone may not need an extension or a payment plan as a direct solution to their upcoming payment or delinquent debt. Sometimes these options just don't get to the root of the issue. For example, I've created working payment agreements with students who pay their housing and dining using their SSDI benefits, and the distribution of those funds may be delayed or not what they would have expected. And we know that this is something that is increasing in a changing political climate as well. In those instances, I have requested that those students let us know in writing or in person that the benefit has come through and that they will be making the payment shortly. I also requested they provide us a payment receipt as an extra measure, even though I'm able to check that in real time. This just keeps them accountable and compliant within our agreement. Okay, so next we're going to go into an empathy map. And I don't know if anyone has seen an empathy map before. This was something that was new to me that a coworker shared earlier in the year. But we are going to be practicing using this as the base for practicing empathy uh, in this slide. So what the map allows you to do is acknowledge perspectives, tailor your approach to each situation, build trust, and resolve conflicts. For the outline of each box, we're going to start with say. With say, You can ask specifically, what is the student communicating explicitly? What key phrases are they using? Is there something in particular that they're latching onto? Is there something about their situation that they aren't quite understanding or grasping? Is there something about their family history or lived experience that's creating a specific roadblock? So is this with say, it's really what are the students actually saying to you uh, in your encounters with them? With think, we have based on their body language and emotional state, what are they thinking? We know that money and finances are already a difficult topic to approach with anyone, and this creates a lot of vulnerability, and it certainly is hard to bring up an area of insecurity they're facing. Ultimately, are you able to interpret what they're thinking, and what can you glean from this conversation? With do, this section is mostly about how the student is behaving or what they are literally doing in front of you. Um, if they're crying, would you hand them a box of tissues? Should you consider moving to a more private space so that they can relax? Can you offer them a break or an opportunity to return once they've collected themselves? Do you need to be the person help? Do you even need to be the person helping them with their grounding? Um, or is there other staff that can jump in? And after they've processed the weight of their situation, we can move into feel. With feel, make sure that you're asking yourself, what emotions could the student be feeling in regards to their situation? Some students have lived challenging and difficult lives before arriving at your institution, and college may be an escape from that. Just be aware that they are what they're feeling and make sure that your response to their emotions is productive. Okay, any questions so far? Okay, it looks like questions will be asked at the end. Okay, great. Okay, so in this next slide, these are the personal communication methods that I use specifically for handling outstanding balances, because inevitably this does happen. Um, Everything about this process is trackable. We review incoming payments in real time from different merchants. So I'm going to show how I utilize the methods from a few slides back and then putting them into practice. The communication methods available to you may be role, department, and institution specific, but it is critical to be present and responsive when discussing personal experiences and situations with the students. With step one, I always start with emailed communication. As I said before, we send billing notices about 4 to 5 weeks in advance of the due date. Charges are available for students to begin making their payments towards. And the first communication is really just something that says, hey, you have a balance, and here's where you can review your charges for the quarter and when it's due. And a plethora of financial resources that are available to you right now. The communication is supposed to outline that they have been billed, ha the they have many days until they actually have to pay, when it's due, and then when and how to pay. If someone is paying on behalf of a resident, the tools for them to pay on their behalf are also outlined in this email. So a student could forward it off to the financial advisor for their family, parents or guardians, grandparents, community members involved in their as acting as their payers. The first point of this contract is really contact is really just to drive home who is receiving this communication and why, when it's due and why they are receiving it. Um, I think it's great that our office also has a functional open door policy. We're just available for anyone who walks in. And we can mirror that they are proactively, that they came to us proactively, they found our office, and we can address the situation with them by paying a visit. There is no obligation for students to make an appointment in advance. They could truly just come in whenever they want as long as our doors are open. So step two, these are the supplemental and secondary email communications that say, hey, you have a balance. We told you this before. It's okay. We just want to make sure that you know that our records are accurate. And if you think that they are inaccurate, please tell us. Because as software and humans, it is totally plausible that something isn't recorded correctly, and we can all work together to get that corrected. Usually we just say, hey, please reach out to us if you have any questions as to why our records think that you haven't paid. And let's talk about it. This is a stage where I'm openly inviting students to set up in-person meetings with me. They can call, email, really just, we're trying to make that contact at this point in the stage of trying to get students to pay. At stage 3, this is a tertiary email. This is really summarizing that we have attempted to reach out, attempted to meet, set up a payment plan, or even work through extending their due date. We are really just trying to establish what's going on. This email communication also strictly outlines what they owe and the final date that they have to make that payment before additional consequences begin. At this stage, we also have a physical letter that is delivered to students with the help of our campus partners. Um, this is the time when we can discover the reason a student didn't pay is maybe they moved out or didn't tell anyone and kept their keys for some reason, which I don't know if that happens at your institutions, but people just kind of wander off with their keys sometimes. This also allows us for an additional person who the resident may know because they should already know them. We work with Residence Life, so these are resident advisors and our community managers who live and work in the building, that they are potentially in breach of their contract and need to be directed to our office. And then step 4, we are sending a 4th round of emails. A second letter is delivered. And this time we're outlining that they really need to work with professional staff to ensure someone knows what's going on. And this is the final opportunity for students to set up payment plans or other arrangements. This can include an in-person meeting and setting up a personalized action plan. Usually, and these are all the steps that we're taking to avoid any sort of significant further consequences regarding their housing eligibility. Because if they haven't paid us, we do need to quickly address that. So these are my communication and empathy takeaways. The methods really do matter. The methods you use dictate the types of responses that we expect to get. You will recall that I said earlier that we just don't hear from about 90% of people. They simply receive the emails that says they have something due, when it's due, find out what they owe, and just pay it. We don't hear from most people, and while most of my communications are student-specific, enough of them are general to the point where everyone is learning to use the same resources. We have all of the same hyperlinks in our billing emails, and for the most part, that does work and yields a positive result with the frequency of communication. Over time, we can review if the communication strategies even work. Every few years, we update our language after learning what works and have updated billing communications. Communications are specific, and general, but they're not vague. Empathy also matters. Respect and openness are foundational to effective communication. If a student is coming to us, this is probably their first time tackling a problem, or maybe they've been tackling it for a while and are finally able to ask for help. We're always open to their situation, even if we've dealt with it a million times. We must treat it with the same respect as the first time because they deserve to have equal levels of respect. We need to recognize that a varied and robust communication strategy is critical. Regularly evaluate your own benchmarks and metrics and question the things that you're doing are actually fostering empathy. Okay, and then availability matters. We are not educators in the traditional sense, but we are in an educational environment, and I really think that this is the perfect space for students to practice quote unquote, the real world. It's important that the things that we do mirror what they could experience outside of the institution and beyond, but in a way that doesn't create fear about joining that next system. We have to ensure that we are part of the student support system, um, because they may not have one going into the university, and they may not have one once they leave. So while they are here and part of our system, it's really critical that we um, remain that solid rock. We also need students. We also need to meet students in a way that works for them best. There are many students who may be only available to address things via email due to their situation. This could be work schedule, home life, roommate conflicts that they're going through, and they just can't quite find a private space. Um, there are people who really struggle with asking for help. So in person may not work, but maybe there are ways that we can easily get through their thoughts in a phone call or just kind of casually asking questions in an open office environment. But these are really my main takeaways of the presentation. That is everything. Thanks, everyone. Hopefully that was insightful, and hopefully I didn't talk too fast. Um, and I think we can go through some questions now. Oh, it's already 11. Megan, do we have
We,
time?
I can stay on for a few more minutes if others want to, and you are able to, Hannah, to answer
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, I can stay
Um,
on for just a little bit longer, not a problem. But if folks need to drop off, thank you so much for coming. It's definitely a lot of information in a short time frame, so I appreciate everyone that was able to get here. Let's see, and I'm sorry.
yeah,
Let's
there were a couple,
yeah.
just since I've been watching them, if you don't mind.
Yeah, 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 not at all.
And I don't know if these folks have had to drop off, but there was one comment or question from Levi about would love a more in-depth talk about getting students to open up about finances, because that is sometimes a delicate
Yes.
ask.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So I can answer this question very quickly. Otherwise, I actually don't know if my email is anywhere. But that can totally be provided,
Yeah.
Levi, if you would like to connect. Yes, I would love to help with that. But one of the things that is really critical is yeah, it can be hard to get them to open up. And sometimes you just kind of have to confront the situation a little bit face on and tell them first, I can solve this problem for you. I've dealt with this before. You have a situation that has a solution. And I think going into the conversation first with that mindset really helps them to open up. Um, but yes, I would love to talk further.
And I know Paula had put, I think, the maybe general email and phone number in the chat. So thank you, Paula. But if
Yes.
Hannah, you also want to provide that information, I can send it out later to
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah, 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 absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
let's see, I think it looks like Paula might have sort of answered some of this in a chat as well. But what is the messaging you use to motivate a student to pay their balance? What are the consequences? And
Yeah, so one of the things we do is do students do get charged late fees. They also get their dining plans suspended. So that is a pretty significant consequence that we really do use. It does motivate people because all of a sudden they are more likely to realize that they can't purchase things on campus to eat than they are to realize that they have something outstanding that they need to owe and that is why this consequences was enacted. I would say by the time that we have placed late fees and holds, we get a pretty significant response within the following 24 hours. There's not a specific pattern, but they are told that this is happening well in advance, and then they're told that it's happened. So yeah, that is while they're active students, that's most of the consequences. And then, I mean, ultimately, if a student is not paying and we can't get a hold of them, nothing, like literally nothing has worked, they are terminated and requested to leave because it is technically a breach of contract to not pay. They are using resources for free. So we've spent a number of years working with our conduct and compliance teams to make sure that our language could mirror trespassing. Now, this is the most extreme. It has come to this, but it's not a common end result. Um, but there are, yes, increasing consequences as time goes on.
Thanks, Hannah. I think that was all the like content related questions in the chat. There are people asking about wanting the recording and the slides. The recording will be on YouTube. I don't know if you have any more time, but if there's any last minute questions people just want to ask out loud, you're welcome
Yeah,
to. We'll take maybe 3 more minutes and then wrap it up. That's
sure. Yes, thank you so much, Paula, for answering those questions for me. I didn't quite have an easy way to see the chat
no.
as this was going on. But yes, if you want to connect with me, feel free to also just email our office as Paula advised. Yeah,
Awesome.
okay.
Okay. Well,
Happy
then I
to
won't.
help, Hannah. Thank you so much. Thank you, Megan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Rockstar Hannah. Woohoo!
Thanks.
Yes,
Thanks,
thank you.
everyone.
Thank you so much, Hannah. Everyone else, we'll have more webinars coming soon. Our next one's going to be on July 8th at 10 a.m. Pacific. So look for information about that. And yeah, thank you, everyone.
All right, yeah. Have a
Have
good
a
rest
great
of your
day.
day. Bye.
Have a great day.